The continuing closure of Nigeria's land borders by the federal government, as it says, for checking the illicit cross-border trade in petroleum products, may after all be having a devastating impact on the fragile ecosystem along her vast coastlines. From all indications, participants in this illicit trade have become increasingly bolder, breaking oil-bearing pipelines at will around the largely isolated beachheads, spilling millions of liters of oil into the ocean. The side effects is therefore all to see: withering coconut trees, disappearing plants and animal life. For a conversation around all of this, we're now being joined by Akintunde Disu, an environment activist who has been waging a war against all manners of plastic and effluent pollution in Lagos and around her coastlines. Welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Good to have you again on the morning show.
It's wonderful to be
You're
back
welcome.
here.
Well, the last time we spoke about plastic pollution,
Plastic bags.
and the threat of that to the environment and human lives and the general ecosystem. Now, since then, we have also had issues along the coastlines of Nigeria. And when Tudun was introducing the topic, she was saying, the closure of the border has also had some kind of corresponding effect on the environment. How do we connect that? What have you seen? What is going on that we need to know?
Well, it would seem as if with the border closure, there's become a greater emphasis of the waterways as the route for smuggling of petroleum products out of Nigeria. And because we are on the border, we are, on that peninsula, so we're exposed to that. And there's the Atlas Cove Mosimi pipeline that runs from Takwa Bay to Ilashe and carries petroleum products from Atlas Cove. And there's been breaches all along this pipeline, and where they've been diverting petrol from there to be sold illegally across and transported out of the country and across the border. And this has become a menace to the environment and to their lives as well. The environment has been totally devastated. We've lost hectares of palm trees. There are places that have been turned into just deserts, and the water as well, the pollution in the water. I mean, this year, we used to see the kids, they would just, at low tide, they would eat from the water. They'd be full of prawns and periwinkles and other, like, shellfish. Now there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. It's been devastated.
Well, it's interesting that you are bringing this up, because this week we've had two different sets of guests, to address the issue of pipeline vandalism along the coast, particularly along Atlas Cove, 75 kilometers, And the first set of guests we had were complaining that, look, they're facing the threat of eviction, of summary collective punishment, and that, it is not true that there is a case of pipeline vandalism. And then we have the CEO downstream of NNPC, Engineer Yemi Adetunji, who came and gave us a different version and said, look, there's really criminality going on, and most of these people are not even Nigerians. And our pipelines are being vandalized on a daily basis. And the Navy had to move in, Ports Authority, NNPC, to check this. But what's your own assessment of government's response? Because what we hear is that people are being displaced either in Otodogbame or Ukwayo or, Takwa Bay.
Well, two different things. Both sides are correct. I'm in Okwayo and I'm in Takwa Bay, and I'm also in Ilashe. And I saw this from just after Christmas Eve, when New Year's Eve, when they moved in and started the slum clearing, as you would call it. The criminality is there, and it's been out of hand. There's no way, nobody can deny that. These communities that used to be there used to be communities based on fishing and on farming. The coconut farming was their main was their main crop, and they're basically plantations, coconut plantations. They've been turned into bunkering. This is the main thing.
Nobody wants to fish again.
Well, the
it's
waters
to steal
are polluted.
Nigerian oil.
Well, no, not really.
That has become the main job.
Well,
for those people.
No. It's not that cut and clear. It's the fact that the fishermen are still there, And the farmers are still there, you know, the rural communities are still there, but there's been a large influx of people who've been brought in because of the oil tampering, and have now moved into these communities and have created another or enlarged the communities. And this is now a focus. And then with the oil spills and the degradation of the environment, what now happens is that the fishermen and the farmers find it hard to make a living, and so you find yourself in a downward poverty spiral, which like what we have in the Niger Delta, where the only thing you can do is to break the pipelines.
So what would you have recommended as a course of action? Because what we saw the Nigerian Navy do was this forced eviction, giving the occupants or the residents an hour's notice. Well,
I think they'd been given notices earlier, and they'd been warned previously. We really should have. This is something that is a Lagos problem. You know, it's not just that small community, because you know this is something that's happened all over and again. And Lagos State really, or Nigeria government really needs to be proactive in putting, in stopping these communities from forming in the first place. I mean, they're there for elections. They're always there. This time last year, it was electioneering, you know, campaigning going on, and we were covered. There were polling booths and everything, and everybody, all the politicians were there. So why didn't they know that this was coming up? We've got health centers there, we've got libraries, we've got, you know, schools and everything. So these are proper citizens. They are not foreigners. They are Nigerians that are here. So why did they allow them? Because it was obvious that there is no other form of livelihood to support this amount of people, you know. And then secondly, the NNPC, why are they just waking up to find out that 1 million liters of petrol is missing from the system every single day? Surely somebody should know that. You know, it's 570 million liters, they said, went missing in 4 months that they audited from July till October. I think somebody should know if 570 million liters is missing from Nigerians' petrol. And I think somebody should pay for that, as well as the villagers, you know, that took it. I think these are issues.
This is a good perspective that you've given here, and I'm glad that you've come on as someone that has a business that runs at Tarkwa Bay, sees the community, etc., and knows. When we had a local come on the show, a local from the community, Mohammed Zana, someone that lived there, he came on and he said that, what was I going to say to you? My mind just went. He was talking, sorry, what was the point that you just made with regards to...
petrol, that someone should have known.
Yes, he came on and he was talking about the fact that it's only a particular part of Tarkwa Bay that had, that was over the pipeline, and he said that you have literally every single security agency lined up at Tarkwa Bay. Why is it that they're not there protecting these pipelines if that's what they're supposed to be there for? So, as a witness, can I say, if I can call you that, would you say that the security agencies that had been put at Tarkwa Bay all this time were really doing their job or not doing their job? Because they're always there. Mohammed Zana said the right thing, you know?
Well, I'm not sure what their job was, because they could have been there to, you know, to monitor other things, because Tarkwa Bay is the gateway into the country. So they're there to do loads of other things, and I'm not sure whether this was part of their specific reasons for being there. You've got the army, you've got customs, you've got so many other things that are involved in Tarkwa.
Yet this amount of pipeline vandalism can still go on.
Yes, but the thing is that really NNPC should have known, because, you know, it's auditing, isn't it? It's stock taking. You know, it's 570 million liters every 4 months is a lot.
Like today, I mean, you say you are there on the ground in Okwayo, in Tarkwa Bay, in Elashe, and people are doing quick business with finished products, petrol. But you are monitoring the environment. You have not considered the option of joining this very profitable.
Well, we are not really on that side of the beach. You know, we're not really on that side of the beach. You know, there's like a 3-kilometer exclusion zone, and we're on the other side of it, you know. So, I mean, we found out all of this from reading the news like you have. Nobody would have guessed in their wildest imagination that 1 million liters was coming out of this tiny community.
Anyway, I'm just pulling your legs.
I know.
I'm not encouraging you to engage in economic sabotage.
No, I wouldn't go that far. But I think, the government should really consider turning that area into a green zone, and just removing all petrol and just, like a nature park, because it's such a beautiful place.
Well, we'll take a short break now. Yeah. When we return, we'll begin to look at the solutions. We'll be right back. When we return, the conversation with Akintunde Disu will continue. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Still with us in our Lagos studio is Akintunde Disu, an environmentalist who has been discussing the challenges of oil theft and pollution along the coastlines of Lagos, Nigeria. Akintunde, before we went on break, you were trying to offer a suggestion that the Nigerian government should turn the coastline of Lagos into a green zone. And you had also said earlier that the Lagos government should not have allowed those communities along the coastlines to form in the first place. And that's a very sensitive issue because the Lagos state government over the years has been criticized for relocating people along the coastline or other parts of Lagos, either Morocco or Todogbame. And now, some people are even saying that Takwa Bay, they're trying to push the people out to turn it into maybe a resort or something. How about the right of those persons along the coastlines to have their own communities?
First of all, they're the local indigents that have every right to be there. These are the farmers and the fishermen who've always been there. They come from there, and they have every right to be there. And their main purpose, they are in love with the land. They will always protect the land. It's their land, and they should be there. Now, I'm talking about the people who came in specifically to engage in this criminal, stuff that was going on. Now, they shouldn't have been there in the first place. This population explosion should have been spotted by the government when they came for elections and they saw and for polling and voters registration, and they saw the rapid increase in the population there. That, first of all, should have.
That will include people like Leila, who is also a member of that community.
I'm always a talker.
Yeah, but she's not staying overnight.
So the doctor wants to come and expose my locations.
Yeah. Well, tourism is part of what they do there, and as well, and that should be encouraged because it's one of the most beautiful places in the country, And so what I was saying is that they should turn that whole area into like a green zone, for ecotourism and stuff like that, and we can work to repair the damage that has been done and to ensure that the farming and all these other things go on, and we that whole place can be a beacon for how things can be done properly. It can be a beacon for even repairing the Niger Delta and how we can go about getting that all cleaned up and sorted out as well.
I think that's a great idea, but it must be said that the environment is often seen as convenient collateral damages, while any government, not just in Nigeria, all over the world, right, they pursue other agendas. We have what happened in Brazil with their president, Jair Bolsonaro, trying to promote agribusiness and having them completely destroy the Amazon forest. We have what's happening in Australia with the wildfires. Their Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, really promoting the coal industry at the expense of the environment. And now to Nigeria, where you have linked some of this degradation to border closure. That policy convinced a lot of people eventually. We all saw the damage being done to Nigeria's economy. We saw the security risk, but you have now highlighted this really unfortunate collateral damage. So what is the case that you can make for creating this green zone, economic or otherwise? What are the benefits to Nigeria?
Well, tourism is one of the fastest growing industries. It's a huge employer. There are loads of, and it's low skill as well. And which is exactly what we need in Lagos. With our youthful population, we need low-skill employment. A green zone also emphasizes that because there's a lot of manual labor involved in low-skilled jobs as opposed to normal tourism, which is like high-end hotels, big, tall buildings that are, damaging to the ecology and also require high level of management, which we just don't have. So ecotourism would actually really help that, and then it would also serve as eyes, because everybody's eye would be there. And if that was the case, then they would not be able to have this situation where we had pipelines being broken and nobody knew about it, because everything would be open to everybody to see, and then we can all take collective responsibility about this and support the local communities based around there by training them and helping them to get better at the things they're good at, which is farming and fishing and the tourism business, hospitality.
Ecotourism is key, especially when Lagos is trying to become a smart city. But I wanted to ask you how exactly a government can go about turning a zone like Takwa Bay into a green zone. What are the exact steps or measures that would have to be taken in terms of policy, etc.? Because it doesn't really sound like that's an easy shift, considering the geographical layout of Takwa right now and the amount of pipelines or major pipelines that we're discussing running around that area. So what would it actually take for us to achieve that?
It really is the easiest thing.
Oh, surprise.
Yeah, it is. It really is just banning, petroleum products, basically, and just asking people to use alternative energy products. First of all, if the petrol products are not there, then, if there's no use for them, then you won't have them there. I mean, they said they evicted about 40,000 people. Or 30,000 people, I don't know, big numbers anyway. But those people all need petrol, as you know. We all need petrol to live, and unless there's an alternative energy source. So the fact that those people were there means that they're going to get petrol one way or the other. Now, if you now tell them that, okay, all the people who are there, like all the businesses, like we're going green, we're going solar this week. If you're saying that everybody who's there, you need to go solar or wind power, or you run on batteries or something else, because that's just what you need to do. We just don't want to see petrol around there. Then that's what you need to do. We will be the first people to do it, in the world. So what government has to do is do nothing, really, to make it work.
Just stay out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you are in Lagos and you are an environmental action person. What's your assessment in terms of focus of the present Lagos state government? I mean, we've had a change of government, and I don't think, apart from waste management, environment is top of the agenda for the Sanwo-Olu administration. How do we engage them? Have you, on your own, as someone who is involved in this area, tried to make any effort, either through your group or whatever, to engage them?
Well, oddly enough, just before this whole thing started, in Takwa Bay, we were running a pilot project based on, in fact, our conversations last time, where we were trying to see, to collect data to be able to present to the federal government, to the state government, concerned with the isolation of just like plastic bottles or, like particular types of plastic, and to see what it is that local communities can do in isolating and collecting this and just removing it from the whole circle of trash and giving value to this. And we're also been in touch with recyclers, and we were working on this program that we're about to complete and then implement. In fact, this month would have given us the figures we needed to be able to move forward and talk to the government. But then we've been stopped by what's going on in Takwa right now, because Takwa was the perfect place to run like a tiny case study.
There was a situation in that area, in that community right now. Takwa Bay, Ukwayo. The people who have been displaced, have they returned?
There is no longer a community.
Oh, the place is empty now.
It's more or less empty. The place is by the beachfront itself. So that's the people who have legal documentation to be there. The chalets are still there. The government agencies, the forces, and are still there. But and then the community, which is a very tiny community, but the community that's based around the chalets are still there, and the community that services the barracks is still there. But the informal community, the village that was based around Takwa Bay, has disappeared. It's no longer.
Yeah, but you yourself made the point that these people encroached illegally, so government is perfectly right to displace them.
Well,
That's
I would
what
not say totally illegally, because I've been going to Takwa Bay since I was 2 years old, but one of my really strong memories of Takwa Bay was about 30 years ago when they had the Warri Wars, and my mom and the refugees from Warri were moved to Stadium, and then from Stadium, when that was overflowing, they took them to Takwa Bay. And this was over 30 years ago. And that was one of my, and Takwa Bay has served. I know when Modakeke had its own things and people escaped, ran to Lagos, they moved some of them to Takwa Bay. And even now, we've seen people from the northeast of Nigeria being moved to Takwa Bay. So Takwa Bay has always had this, where if you come into Lagos and you're not, it's always been a place of refuge.
Yeah,
but there will have no problem with those communities if they didn't start tampering with their national assets, with pipelines.
It wasn't the whole community. Like you said, it was a group of people, and then the whole community gets criminalized over it.
Yes, and
Well, we're not talking about people like you at the beachfront.
No, I'm even talking
the people
about
in the chalets.
No, okay, what about even the people who contribute to the economy and they sell every single weekend on the beachfronts to a lot of tourists that come, the artists, etc. What about them?
Yeah, a lot. So those are the people who we're now working. We're now trying to see how we can help and we can save. Because a lot of them, like especially for us, like the surfer boys, the people who do the fruits, the people who grill for us, and the musicians and all. These are part of Lagos. They're not Takwa Bay.
Exactly.
These are part of the they are golden strands in the fabric of Lagos. They are what endears people to Lagos, and so we're trying to see how we can protect and help those ones to continue, because it's very important for Lagos.
Thank you for putting it that way, because it's very easy to just dismiss the whole community as a bunch of criminals. So that poetic description there of the golden strands and the tapestry of Lagos, I appreciate, because they do add value. Yeah. But have you heard any updates? Because there were reports that this mass eviction happened while children were at school and children got separated from their parents. Do you have any general updates of families that were looking for their children? Has that been resolved?
I know of a couple that have that they've now found. I know there was a whole lot going on in CMS. I'm not really sure, but I do know that. You see, this reminds me of the bomb blast, which oddly enough happened about I think 2002 at exactly the same time.
Yes. The
Ikeja bomb blast, and I had workers come in 2 weeks later with high blood pressure and like stroke effects and everything. And once again, I've seen my in Ilashe, my staff there have come in with high blood pressure problems, and it is trauma and it is stress, and it really takes its toll on their long-term health. It's not something anybody wants to really witness. Yeah. I mean, when I walked into the village 2 days ago, 2 days ago, or was it even yesterday, I came back home and I slept for like 18 hours just to get over the shock of it. It was totally leveled. It was something you never, ever want to see again. It looked as if a nuclear bomb had been dropped.
Especially for a community that so many people are so in touch with. Takwa is such a huge part of Lagos. It's so sad.
I always used to come in through the jetty and walk through the village and say hello to everybody as I went by. And these are people I'll probably never see again. Yeah, they're gone.
What an absolute shame this is. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Akintunde Disu.
This was a great perspective.
Good to have you again.
Honestly, it was. You needed one.